I can just share my live stream. I can embed my live stream. When we get in prison logic? That's a damn good question. We spent the day today in the studio, and we were oh my gosh, what were we doing? What's it called? You know, we were in the studio today doing the whole color grading thing, and you know, and real quick, I want to drop, you know, everybody thinks their film is great. Everybody thinks they make a good movie. I hate to be a person saying, oh, no, but mine is really good. But I'm not kidding y'all when I tell you. It's good. It's really good. But to answer your question, you know, it's hard to predict because... it's hard to predict when the film will come out because we have now began submitting to film festivals. In fact, I was going to say this really quick. We just got accepted into the Atlanta Film Festival. And so if you live in Atlanta and you are a supporter of the Prison Logic movie, I'm going to have tickets. And I'll be holding those tickets for people in Atlanta who've supported Prison Logic, prisonlogic.com. So you will get a notification via text message, or you'll get a notification via email, or both. And if you're available, first come, first serve, ultimately. But I've got to reach out to my supporters first. Adrian, thank you, man. And I'm not hyping it up, Adrian. It's a good film. It's funny. It's heartfelt. It's got some moments where you just kind of, just a little bit. I'm proud of it, man. You know, I was just really doing a test because I wanted to know if it would be possible for me to embed live streams on the actual Prison Logic website, and apparently I can, and that's very exciting because now I can, if I'm at a film festival. If I'm at a film festival, I can show you what's going on while I'm there. This is live because now when I'm, you know, working, like today when I was doing the color, you know, when I was doing the feed, when I was doing the color grading today in the studio, I would have loved to have been able to stream and shown you guys what was going on, because it's a pretty intricate process, but the minute you see it, it makes all the sense in the world, because it actually goes from like this kind of flat looking piece, you know, film or image with no real dimension to all of a sudden all the dimension in the world. So like I said, we've been accepted into the Atlanta Film Festival so far, and in the event that you're available, we'd love for you to roll with us. You know, first come, first serve, of course. I got to go to my, you know, contributors first. Got to keep honoring my contributors. And so I'll text them first. I'll email them first. And then after them, if I've got any tickets left over, I'll just make them available to the public. Or actually, I'll make them available to my mailing list. What happened, babe? Huh? Yeah. I'll tell you. Yeah. So anyway, I don't want to talk y'all to death, but that's what's going on. And I know, like, people always saying, yo, you got to make another video, you got to spit more game and all this, and I got to be real, man. You know, looking at the state of the United States today, it's difficult because more and more of the media and everything else, it just indoctrinates people to a point to where if you don't support that mainstream narrative, if what you're saying contradicts that, you know, people take it personally. It's like you're denouncing their religion. And so I've just opted to keep whatever research and information that I come up with, keep it offline, however it pertains to what's going on today. And, you know, but I will say that some good books to read would be, great book to read would be The 100-Year Marathon. It's talking about China's plan to become a superpower, and that they're about 13 years ahead of schedule. And what's interesting is that when Steve Bannon stepped down from the Trump campaign, he basically spoke about the exact same issue with China to a liberal reporter. So for whatever reason, he wanted to make that known. And, you know, in the book kind of helps make sense of why other countries are switching off from the petrodollar and switching over to the yuan. It's a trip. Just check it out. A book that I just started reading that had me up all night was a book called Trust Me, I'm Lying. And it just really breaks down the way in which the media is the way in which the media is manipulated. Had me up all night. Probably had me up tonight. And someone just asked me if I saw a movie called I'm Not Racist. Or something called I'm Not Racist. And I feel like I have, but I can't put it into context. I know that I saw it on Netflix or something. Is that what it is? Fill me in on what that actually was. It's a song by... Oh, yeah. The video that I saw, I saw the video, I'm Not Racist. And what's really funny is a lot of people thought that the white dude was actually rapping that part, and so they interpreted it completely different from when they found out that a black dude was actually rapping that part. That the artist just basically hired actors to play his role. I thought that was hilarious. But I also thought that, I wasn't quite sure how to think about it because I feel as though the qualms that the first verse had with the way in which people interpret black culture, it seemed like it was a heavier and more substantial verse than the verse in which the black side is explaining themselves. You know what I mean? And I would have liked to have seen the black side speak more on the things that that dig much deeper into things that plague that community, the black community. Am I still in Puerto Rico? No, I'm not in Puerto Rico right now. Actually, right now I'm in California. Anything else? Anybody else got a question before I end this experiment? My love has got humor. I want to show y'all the book that I'm reading. This new one that I just started. This shit got me crunk. That would be it. Trust me, I'm lying. That shit got me crunk. Okay. So, everybody go to prisonlogic.com, look at the website, and tell me if you think it's live. I would appreciate that. Did you watch Miguel Cotto last fight? Dude, honest to God, I'm working so hard. I don't get to watch fights. I wanted to see that fight. I know he lost. Man, Miguel Cotto was my dude. I feel like after he was cheated on by, I just feel like somewhere between Manny Pacquiao and Margarito particularly, I feel like he was never the same. He never committed to his style like he used to. And, his style was really committing to body blows. He used to really put those body blows on people. And if you noticed in the Cotto fight, even when he was tagging Cotto up, he never went to the body on Cotto, And I know that he was working on and focusing on that eye that Manny Pacquiao had messed up, but another part of me wanted to see him work that body. And I feel as though he just became a much more cautious fighter once he started training with Freddie Roach, which I respect. because Cotto's a legitimate boxer, and he can actually get in the ring, and he's got crazy footwork, and he's good with combinations. But I don't know, something about that Margarito fight where he was cheated, it changed him. It just changed him. And I'm glad that he got the perspective of, I heard him say this. He goes, I got my family and I have my health. What else do I need? I'm glad that clicked for him, because you don't want to hear him talking like some of these guys in their 50s. I'm still the greatest fighter, pound for pound. No one can beat me. I'm immaculate hand speed. The footwork is immaculate. I don't want to hear him talking like that. He's a true champion, man, and and people like Margarito are not worth it. And I was glad that Cotto beat him, but I wanted to see Cotto beat him the way Manny Pacquiao beat him. I wanted Cotto to bust up the other eye for his, for his cheating. And to me, man, boxing, when they take your... Anyway, man, whatever. They should have took Margarito's license for good. Anyway, I'm just going off about boxing. I'm not sure if anybody cares. Does anybody else got any questions before I end this experiment? Just looking in, just checking in. I am all ears for a few more seconds, and doing my best not to speak politically. I speak politically with the homies all day. Anyway, thank y'all for joining me on this experiment. Everybody take a look at this site right here. I'm going to type it in for y'all. Chat viewing options. I'm going to show. Is your name Ubika Mason? If it is, I appreciate it, famo. And you know I will. You know I will. Live chat messages show. Cool. I guess I can't type anything, but if you go to prisonlogic.com, which I should have typed in below this box, but if you go to prisonlogic.com, you'll get a sense of what the site's like, who's in the movie. You'll see Regina Hall and Tammy Roman. Women look their best in their 30s. I wonder what made you say that. MC, what made you say that? I have to tell you that I have a thing where I believe anybody can look good in their teens and in their 20s. It is about look good after 30, and I'm impressed. Look good after 30, and you are what I call hot. And so that's, oh, you're saying fully developed. I'm actually saying I feel like some women don't really learn how to take care of themselves until later in life, which might be why the highest growing demographic of selfies posted on the internet are by women between the ages of, are women in their 50s, early 50s. That might explain why. But, and also, I just think, women raise their kids and maybe survive their divorce or whatever it is, and are ready to get back out into the world, and at which point they are kind of like they reinvent themselves. And I think that might contribute a bit to it too, because your priorities are just different when you're raising children. And when those kids take off, you got to figure out another sense of purpose, another way to do meaningful things. It's funny, man. I was thinking about making these videos and just kind of explaining some of the stuff that I'd been through in my relationships, because I just turned 49, and I was thinking to myself, like, damn, I've been through a lot of stuff that I think a lot of young people today could benefit from. And I started thinking about talking about, like, going down, chronicling my relationships and tell you everything I had learned from each one and why I was repeating certain patterns and all of that. And maybe one day I'm going to get around to that, but I really do think it would be useful. I'm sure you've heard me say it before. People, my white friends would say I had the wounded bird syndrome. And, hey, thank you very much, MC. And Schumann Johnson, thank you very much. My white friends would say I had the wounded bird syndrome, and my black friends would say, no, he just Captain Save-A-Ho. And and my Latino friends would be like, no, it's called estúpido. Escúchame, estúpido. But, you know, it was this thing where one thing I will tell you is that, and my mother actually said this, just because someone likes you chooses you doesn't mean you have to choose them. It's kind of big, and she's right. You know, I think that when it all boils down to it, at 49, I can definitely say I think that the most important thing, the thing that I most want is, or most wanted, or the thing that's proven to be the most valuable is a peace of mind. And a peace of mind encompasses a lot. It encompasses forgiveness. It encompasses a sense of purpose. It encompasses peace. It encompasses substance, education. It encompasses a lot, but a peace of mind, you know. More so education about myself, knowing who and what I am, you know. Believe it or not, I've tried. I've gone out there and I've dated those girls who were like, you know, flashy, on the scene, Hollywood scene kind of girls, and all those things. And I just real talk, I'm just not built like that. I'm not an on the scenes dude. You know, if you let me, I'll wear the same pair of sweatpants every day, and it's just not my thing. I think that it was something that I thought I was supposed to do. And I think a lot of times, especially when it comes to relationships and jobs and education, we tend to choose the things that we think we're supposed to do rather than the things that are authentic to us. But damn, I was just trying to do a little experiment real quick and see if this thing worked. And now I'm sitting here talking. So my wife said, did I feel played? No, honest to God, I didn't feel played, because it wasn't in a, you know, when I would go into situations where whatever it was, for whatever reason, I felt like I always brought the best out in people, whoever I was dating. It was just, I was at least honest enough to know that it wasn't for me and was willing to skate. And, you know, that's what I would do. I never had a problem saying this one isn't working. And so I would be like, okay, this relationship isn't working. Or I just realized that my health was at risk because I'd be up all night explaining why I was talking to a female friend till 7 o'clock in the morning. And you do 2 or 3 nights of those in a row. That ain't for me, Papa. That ain't for me. So, you know, I would get out. But I've never been in a situation where I felt like I was being used for my money or anything like that, or fame or anything like that, because ultimately I just didn't really allow it to go there. Truth. And if I got the sense that that's what was going on, I might start hitting on your friend, you know? And you don't want that. I'm kidding. That's a joke. But what else? Will I be going back to ISM Radio with Tariq anytime soon? I think that, you know, if Tariq invites me there, or if things happen with my film, I think that there's a good possibility that I could make it back to ISM Radio. I really do have so many things that I want to talk about, but I began to understand that when you speak of communism and you understand communism, people use the term a lot, but I don't think they really understand what it means. And one thing you'll find in most communist countries is that the state or the government owns 80% of the big businesses, 80% of the media, 80% of all, you know, educational institutions. If you have been an inspiration for me, just do stuff. When you just do stuff, sometimes it leads to opportunity. And that's good advice, by the way. And you realize that basically the government owns and controls everything from media to education to business. And when you're aware of what communism actually is, what you start understanding about the United States is that it's similar. Because what ends up happening in the United States, which is interesting, is that in the USA, it appears that rather than government owning 20% of the major businesses, 80% of the major businesses, and owning the education, and 80% of the educational institutions, and owning 80% of the social media outlets, and you begin to understand that in a country like ours, actually, major businesses own 80% of the government. Major businesses own 80% of the educational institutions, 80% education institutions, 80 major businesses own 80% of the social media platforms, and actually it's quite similar. So yes, it's true, they won't come out in public and say, this man is going to jail and being locked in a cell for 20 years because he said something bad about the president. But believe it or not, in the United States, it happens. It happens. And I remember reading a book about I think it's called Legacy of Ashes, about the CIA. And I'm just telling you right now, before you decide to go get that book, I'm letting you know the person who wrote that book didn't think highly of the CIA. But he exposed a lot of what the CIA operations. And when you understand how the CIA gets down, you begin to understand that there's a fine line between what we refer to as democracy and what we refer to as communism. Anyway, for instance, I saw the other day there were these anti-Muslim comments plastered all over Twitter. And Twitter had to explain to CNN International why weren't that hate speech removed. And Twitter's response was, we think it's important for people to understand all sides of the story. And I thought to myself, that's interesting, because I have a copy of a tweet that I tweeted about Al-Qaeda needing to pay corporate tax because we could use some of that aid money here in the United States. We've given them $2-3 billion a year. Twitter blocked me out of my account for that shit. I couldn't get back into my account for 2 weeks. And then not only did they do that, they cut my following in half, and my following has never exceeded 135,000 followers. And my following would normally jump about 100,000 after every movie that I did. I've had 4 movies come out since then, and my following is stuck at 135. I don't even use Twitter. It's stuck. My Facebook posts, politically related Facebook posts, get deleted all the time. I think some of y'all know that. And even crazier than that is, randomly the other day, I don't even know how long ago, my Instagram verification just up and disappeared. And I ain't even saying nothing. And I'm not quite sure. What I think happened is, about 12 years ago, I crossed, maybe even longer, I crossed the street at the LAX airport, but I was walking with 2 Middle Eastern men that were wearing turbans and the robes, and one of them was wearing suits and shades. And I just happened to be crossing at the same time as them, and I turned to them and I said, good afternoon. And they were like, hey, good afternoon. And, didn't think anything of it. But when I returned from my trip about a week later, my entire house smelled like parts of my house smelled like cologne. I've never worn cologne in my life. My traveling experience has changed tremendously. I remember getting off the plane in Houston, and with all the other passengers, about 200 and some other passengers, and we were walking through the airport, and this blonde woman just walks up to me, short blonde woman, about 50-something, walks up to me, and she goes, Mr. Malco? And I go, yeah. She goes, your bags didn't make it, so we'll need an address of where you're staying. And I was like, okay. So my boy, Green, who was there to pick me up at the airport, he's like, he's still trying to figure out how she knew I was Mr. Malco amongst 200 plus passengers. Good question. So anyway, and my travel experience was always different from that. Got flagged, everything, all the time. And I'll tell you when it all subsided. When I signed up for TSA flight pre-check. Then suddenly getting on planes was a lot easier. Traveling was a lot easier. I didn't get flagged as much at the airport. And, you know, having a little while and a moment to kind of sit back and chill, it really just started replaying everything and understanding a few other things that have happened more recently within the last couple of years. And I was like, you know what? Everything that I know about the CIA, everything that I know that's happening in the United States today, I should keep my mouth shut. I should keep my friggin' mouth shut. And that's what I'm aspiring to do about that. And plus, who knows? Maybe everything that I think I know is BS, and I don't want to impose those perspectives on other people, especially younger, impressionable people. So, you know, that's that. Have you been to Jamaica? 1,000,000 times. Favorite Caribbean foods, Jamaican food. Ubeka Mason, thank you, sir. MC. Well, you know, MC, you're right. Oh, shucks. You're right. It is it is like handshaking, but it's so deep, man. You know, like I was saying the other day, I'm like, you got to really ask yourself, how can our Supreme Court rule in February of 2015 that Saudi Arabia were accomplices in the 9/11 attacks? That's our Supreme Court. Whether you're a patriot or not, the United States Supreme Court ruled that Saudi Arabia were accomplices in the 9/11 attacks, which gave relatives and victims of victims and relatives of victims permission to sue Saudi Arabia for the 9/11 attacks, and then turn around and in 2017 make the largest arms deal in U.S. history with Saudi Arabia. Wait a minute, let's get this right, y'all. Hold up. Okay, our Supreme Court says you are terrorists and you have helped terrorists in the 9/11 attacks. You need any tanks? You need some more weapons? Can we do anything for you in Yemen? That don't make no sense. That don't make no sense. If people understood that the whole situation, yeah, and by the way, you're going to go, oh, that's hyperbole. No, those facts are available to you. There's more. You know, people don't understand that if we get split up by these left and right, we get split up by these presidents. And what you don't understand is that if you pay attention, you go back to the Reagan administration, you go to the Bush administration, or what Reagan, Clinton, Bush, Obama, the Clinton, Obama, and Trump. They're basically, in regards to foreign affairs, they're basically saying the same thing. Assad has to go. We need to implement no-fly zones in Syria. Every party has the same opinion, really? And the reason they wanted to implement these no-fly zones is because Putin was helping to defend Syria because of two major pipelines that basically are Russia's bread and butter. That's how Russia makes the majority of its money, is that it services oil to Europe. And they were going to use these pipelines. They were going to run the pipelines through Qatar. They were going to run the pipelines through Turkey. They were through Syria, Qatar, Turkey, and into Europe. And shit, Putin started flying planes and started blowing up all these insurgents that we had sent over there. And so that's why you heard every administration, no matter what party they were, saying, hey, you know, Assad's got to go and we got to implement no-fly zones. Where can I read about this? Yo, you can just, I swear to God, people act like this is like new. All you gotta do is go online and look it up. It's literally news in plain sight. And so, thank you very much, Adrian. All you got to do is, it's not like it's hidden. It's not. It's like right here. It's in the news. It's not on the mainstream news, but it's on the news. You can read it all day. And so, Turkey turned around and shot down one of Russia's planes, and Russia was like, whoa. But the truth is, Turkey stood to make a lot of money if the United States was able to get control of those pipelines, because the pipeline would be running under Turkey, and Turkey wanted in on that cut. So at that point, Russia, what's his name, started flying out those bombers, accompanied by tanks and these jets that fly in tandem to protect those planes. And pretty much, you don't know this, America's trying to take credit for it, but Russia pretty much ran Al-Nusra Front and all those insurgents, all those extremists, the fuck up out of Syria. And those are people that we sent over. We were actually hoarding. By the way, this has been going on since the 40s, but we were actually hoarding weapons, in Turkey and or in Jordan, and taking them over the southern, I think it's the southern Turkish border, Turkish border, to these extremists, and chemical weapons and all that stuff. We were doing that. That was us. And then, but the people really stood by Assad. And so anyway, that's shut down. So I don't know what happens next, but America's fairly desperate because China's been fairly aggressive in getting much of the region to cooperate in replacing the petrodollar with the yuan. And what I mean by that is, even though Saudi Arabia is supposedly our ally and they back our petrodollar, they're building a refinery right now with China, which might be because of the fact that we pissed them off when our Supreme Court deemed that they were accomplices in the 9/11 attack. Who knows? Who knows? But they're doing business with China now, so now they're going to